Welcome to Walk Away Wealthy. I'm your host, Alan Terrell Gregory. If you're thinking of selling your existing business or looking to untangle yourself from your old business so you can start a new one, you came to the right place. Today, I have a very special guest, Alison Reiff-Martin. Welcome to the show, Alison.
Well, Alan, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today. I'm really looking forward to a great conversation.
Absolutely. Likewise. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a CPA and I have over 30 years of experience in all things accounting, from staff accountant all the way to CFO, up to entrepreneur and CPA. And I have my own firm, which I've had for 7 years. I work with clients, a lot of small to medium-sized businesses who are looking for solid help beyond just what everyone thinks is the easy answer of a tax return. My passion is, and my joy is, to help tell your story through numbers. And I am a fond fan of dad jokes and puns.
Okay, good. So I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path here. I know we have some designed questions here, but what does a CPA do besides just, taxes?
Yes, so CPAs can do and should do a lot more than just tax returns. So we will get focus on, from the accounting standpoint, helping make sure that your books are in order, making sure that you're forward thinking as to how to grow your business in the direction that you want it to go. On the tax side, we focus on that. And I should say this, a lot of people think the tax return is but a report card. You should know the answer when your return is filed. So if we're doing our job, you should have no surprises, because we've worked with you all year long from the accounting side to help grow your business. We've also worked with you to plan and implement tax strategies. So again, you aren't surprised. You should look at it in 5 minutes, go, I got an A. That's how I know I've done my job.
Okay. And what are the benefits of having your books in order? I know a lot of people don't, or they don't quite understand what exactly that means. Can you unpack that for us?
Well, so first and foremost, because I know your focus is selling your business, or buying a new one. If your books are not in order, what does that say to a buyer? That says you don't know how your business is being run. It says you don't have any handle on how to run your business. And amazingly enough, when they come back with the official offer, they're going to discount the value of it, because they're like, I am walking into a mess, an amazing mess that nobody knows how to handle. So from a planning to sell your business, again, I think we've always talked about focusing on the exit and planning, start with the exit in mind. If you do not have a solid set of books, no buyer is going to want you. If you don't have a solid set of books, how do you even know you're going the right way to grow your business? Are you bringing in the right clients? Are you spending too much money on, I don't know, paper towels and pens, when you should be focusing on spending it on marketing and advertising? That's why you need to have your books in order. I do know that along the course of your business, every business has different needs. So for someone starting out, they might just need a bookkeeper. When you move into, say, the 1 to 2 million in revenue, you need a controller. When you move into the 5 to 10 or whatever, you certainly need someone who's a CFO. Those are all services I can provide.
Good. So how and why did you get started helping business with exit planning?
Because again, I guess I go back to the whole enjoying telling your story through numbers. And I've spent a lot of my career on the budgeting and forecasting side, trying to always think ahead to the next thing so that you're always fully prepared. So if, again, when I talk with my clients, my first question is, how long do you plan to be in your business? And if they say, well, I want to sell it a year from now, you're like, whoops, we better hurry up and figure out, are you ready? So, and it's always been satisfying to me to have the business owner be like, wow, I didn't realize I'm worth so much. Wow, I didn't realize, or oops, we need to correct course and stop buying so many paper towels or pens.
So what makes a business owner ready or not ready to exit?
So I think some of the questions they would have to ask is, first off, what is their long-term plan? Are they kind of ready, but, do they have all the business systems in place in terms of standard operating procedures? Do they have a strong management team? do they have, again, have they focused on their mission of, growing, going after the right clients who help, them grow their business? I think what is there one funny question to ask if you, the business owner, go on vacation 2 weeks and you don't contact anything or do anything with your business at all? What happens when you return? Is there too much owner reliance? If you can't answer that, if you can answer that question, say, my God, it is just me. Better think of how to put this in place. You will never be ready. No business or no buyer would want to buy the business because they're walking into that kind of a thing as well too.
Yeah, that's something that I kind of talk to a lot of clients about too. Like the whole vacation test is what I call it. The whole 2 weeks away, no phone, no text, no Slack, no anything. What's going to happen to your business? And I've actually seen someone's face lose color when I asked that question before. So it's a very important question to ask.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. And just like, what procedures, what policies do you have in place to make sure everything runs so, you can provide the seamless experience for your customer?
Yeah. So what are some of the common challenges business owners face when thinking about retirement, other than what we just talked about, of course?
Well, what's next? And one would hope that, they've been thinking about it, but, I think a lot of business owners, and I mean, and I know we all fall into that trap. I'm too busy working in it to work on the business and think ahead. And I suppose it'd be kind of like having kids, you're like, the days are long, but the years are short, kind of a thing. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm 20 years in and I'm ready to retire. I didn't focus on the right things.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that owners can reduce dependence, the business dependence?
Well, I guess it goes back to, do you have a strong management team? Or do you have, enough employees to help you, again, grow your business in the direction you want to go? So, at every various stage of the business's life, you would start out maybe with contractors to help you do like, administrative functions and, IT and technology and all that. The next stage, then you move into employees, but you're always thinking, who can really help me achieve my vision and my goal? So you want to make sure you've got strong management, you've got strong employees in place, and you've got operating procedures in place, again, to help you implement your vision.
Yeah, so I had a friend come to me yesterday about a friend that he has that's having a slight problem with his business. So does like window and glass and floor installers, and he's got a few contractors, and he's really, really busy. And he realizes that he wants to sell the business, but it's still very dependent upon him. So he's trying to figure out, how do I grow this thing and hire some actual employees? Like, what do I have to do? And I told him, I said, look, man, he's got to take at least a weekend and just not focus like in the business. He needs to be working on it. And he probably can't take a full week away because that's going to take away too much of his business and his income. But he's got to sit down and really try to plan it for himself, or hire someone like myself or yourself or someone else that can help them figure this out. Because if you're growing that fast and you don't have the proper infrastructure in place, that thing's going to collapse, especially if it's all dependent upon you.
Yeah. And then what do they say? If you're already realizing there's a problem, it's too late.
Yeah.
You should have been thinking ahead, So
Yeah.
I completely understand that. I was going to say the accounting industry in general, it's hard to find people. So you're always recruiting 24/7.
Yeah, and that brings me to another story. I did a virtual workshop probably about a month ago here. I had a CPA that was, I believe, 68 years old, and it was just him, and he wanted to sell the business. And I said, there's not really much to sell because you don't have any employees, and all you've got is your book of business. So what kind of advice would you have given that guy?
I think I would have said it's hard. And I should say, accountants, we are known for wanting to be perfect. We are known for not wanting to let go of control because it has to be perfect. But if you want to be able to retire, or if you want to just grow the business in general, you have to bring somebody on board, because you could get sick. You could just not want to do it anymore. And again, you're in the end, the buyer's going to think, what am I buying? I'm buying a book of business, and statistics in that case show that most of your clients are going to be gone within a couple of years anyway, because again, they relied upon you. So he, unfortunately, good, bad, and different, he waited too long to bring on staff, somebody to help him run the business, to, take over, or, again, to help bridge the gap so that clients weren't always reliant upon him.
Absolutely. And here's another interesting question. I mean, I've heard a lot of different answers to it, but I'll ask you, how much time is needed to plan and execute a successful exit for a business owner?
The entire time you own the business. I mean, really, I'm being facetious about it, but you should always be working the plan. So you would come in and, obviously do the assessment of the business, are the operations in place? Do you meet all the, other factors of, do you have appropriate buy-sell agreements in place, all that great stuff. But every year you should be, at a minimum, every year you should be looking at it and making sure that is it still right and ready so that 20 years from now or whatever time from you want to retire, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I find that owners usually don't think that far ahead. Some of them don't even think quarter to quarter. They think like day to day. And I'm interested in trying to find a way to break some business owners out of that because, yes, we can talk about mindset all day, but when these consequences compound, which is an interesting way to say that, things get really bad really fast. And I hate for people to have to run into that kind of a problem, like running into a burning building before they start making any changes. So, would you have any advice for people like that?
I was going to say it kind of keeps making me go back to the idea the days are long, but the years are short, and it's one of those you just, and I sometimes think, even business owners are like, yeah, in the end, their focus is on the tax return. It should not be, you have to be willing to invest in a good accountant, in a good, exit plan or someone who can really make you sit down, maybe not once a month, but once a quarter and say, here's how you're looking again. So you don't have the April surprise at tax time. And more importantly, if you're going in the right direction and so that you can start to think long term. It's really hard to tell people to do it. You just have to be willing to make the investment in it because it pays off in spades.
Absolutely. So, I got our 5 rapid fire questions here. We're going to be wrapping up soon. So, what does working with you look like?
A lot of fun. As I told you, I like dad jokes and puns. And in fact, here's a great one. Why did the CPA cross the road?
I don't know. Tell us.
To bore people on the other side. And I will say I would like to think I'm not boring. So working with me is I do a lot more than, again, I'm more than just a tax preparer. I like to really get to know you. I like to know your story, your background. And then I actually spend a lot of time reading up on your industry so that I can sit there and think when, something big happens, I'm like, hey, I read that, Joe Flabeats just sold his business. Does that mean anything for you? And they're like, nope. But, or we can always just start. I always like to think ahead.
Hmm. So this is another kind of offshoot of another question. So what role does an accountant play in someone actually trying to sell their business before and
Well,
after?
before and after, well, first off, again, helping them to focus on the bottom line of obviously not necessarily profitability, which is important, but do you have the cash on hand to be able to, implement whatever it is your goal is? And is everything that you're doing from a financial standpoint helping you focus on the mission? Before, and then let's say even before, say a buyer comes and says, I want to buy your business. Well, then, I would go through your financials with you and say, okay, they're going to spend $1 billion in your business from a financial book standpoint. Looks like it's worth $500,000. Again, making numbers up here, or $500 million. You're going to have capital gain of $500 million. Here's what we can do to start implementing or executing and put in place to make sure that you're being as tax efficient as possible.
Absolutely. Does charitable contribution have anything to do with that?
Again, it's the standard answer. It depends. But yeah, there's lots of strategies you could put in place. Like, again, if you're philanthropically inclined, you could give to charity beforehand. You could also work with the buyer on maybe say an installment sale, like say they're going to pay you $1 billion. Well, can we spread the $1 billion out over 2 years? Or something like that to potentially minimize the gain. There's a whole bunch of strategies. It's just unique to every situation.
Understood. So what characteristics do your best clients exhibit?
The willingness to listen and implement the advice that I give them.
Hmm. Okay. That's a short answer, but that's very poignant. I like that.
So I was going to say, and you can kind of tell when people are just looking for a return or, or they really want the solid advice. And you know, again, the days are long, but the years are short. I want to spend my years in the business focusing on clients who want my advice and want to implement. Because otherwise, why have I invested so much time in you trying to learn your story to help you think of great ideas if you really don't want to implement them?
Agreed. So when it comes to someone selling their business, what size do they need to be to potentially work with you?
Well, actually, I would say if you're in the neighborhood of 2 to 10 million in revenue.
Okay, good to know. So what's your best advice for someone looking to sell their business or transition to a new one?
Best advice would be to make sure you've got your books in order, make sure you've got your financial house in order. And again, you work with a great team, an exit planner, attorney, CPA, and you just be willing to have a great team to help you execute a successful plan.
Okay, this one is going to be interesting for you, especially because you talked about the jokes and puns. So what's one of your favorite quotes and why?
Actually, my grandfather, Carl E. MacArthur, a farmer, and if you know farmers, they're very concise with their talk, and but they say something incredibly profound. And my favorite quote from him was, "When in doubt, turn left. Don't do what everybody else has done. If you turn left," and he actually was just meaning it for driving around. But if you get lost and you turn left, you always find the place you're meant to go. And he is right. He is so right with that one. So be willing to embrace new ideas because it'll help get you to where you're meant to go.
Nice. Okay, and last question here is how can people get in touch with you?
You can reach out to me to my website, reiff-martincpa.com, or you can email me at info@reiff-martinaccounting.com, and I would welcome the opportunity to talk to anyone who's interested in exiting their business.
Perfect. Well, Alison, thank you so much for your time. I'm glad you came onto the show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Thanks so much, Alan, and have a great day.